Howdy friends, and welcome to another campground review from your favorite host. Today's destination is Vallecito Campground, located in south central Colorado. It is northeast of Durango and due north of Bayfield, Colorado. This beautiful forested campground is on the north end of the Vallecito Reservoir and sits partially along Vallecito Creek. It's primarily dry camping with 80 sites and 14 have electricity. There's water available throughout the campground, but not at every site. There are also vault toilets conveniently located throughout. Looking at the campground map, you will see there are 4 camping loops, with Loop B being the primary loop, and loops W, C, and D looping off of it. The initial part of the B loop follows closely along Vallecito Creek, so whether you are on the creek side of the B loop or across the road, you'll be able to hear that rushing water. On the campground map, you will see that I indicated in blue all of the campsites that are flat or somewhat level and would be accessible for a wheelchair or someone with mobility impairments. All of the campsites are dirt, and though there's some gravel throughout the campground, there are no paved parking pads or picnic areas. I would encourage you to use the campsite worksheet that is linked to the description in the video. You can see the full campsite worksheet there telling you which sites have electricity, which sites are flatter, bigger, smaller. Hopefully picking the perfect campsite ahead of time will get your adventure off to a good start. Let's not waste any time and get started on a tour of the W Loop. Site W2 is flat and has easy access to the picnic table. You can see some of the vegetation as we drive through. Site W4 has a lot of trees and rocks and is not flat like the others, but has some ups and downs in the campsite. Site W6 has electricity, and you can see it is a nice sized campsite that is flat with plenty of room to spread out. Site W7 is a pull-through and has a little bit smaller camping area. Site W10 is a nice pull-through with a bigger camping area. However, you can see that you have to go down a path about 15 yards to the picnic table. Site W11 is tucked away in a long driveway with the campsite area in the back. Site W13 has a nice wide driveway and has a very flat camping area. It isn't quite as big as the others, but it does go back quite a ways. And you can see the trees and the mountain cliffs behind the campsite. Site W15 has a nice wide driveway and a big campground in the back. This is one of our favorites. You can hear the sound of the creek as we approach the B loop. Over on the B loop, Site B1 is very open with plenty of room for parking. Site B2 is very similar to B1, and it is across the road from the creek. Here you can see Vallecito Creek rushing down the mountainside. Site B4 is sort of a back end, and it's a little bit weird. You can see that the picnic table is up the hill a little bit from the parking area, but it's on the creek in a very nice campsite. Site B6 is a very large campground, and you can see there's plenty of room here to spread out. You've got room for tents and hammocks. Site B7 is a nice campsite. It's flat and has plenty of room for tents and lots of room for parking cars. Site B9 sits back along the creek. Site B13 is a great site with a super wide driveway to handle multiple cars, but has a small campsite area. Site B14 is similar to B13, but the driveway is not quite as wide. B15 was a really nice site, totally flat most of the way back. It has a big fire pit area and plenty of room to park. B17 was also a nice site, very flat, and the picnic table was close by. Seemed very accessible, as well as some of the others that we've looked at. B18 is a nice back end, but at the back of the parking area, you go through the little gully and then down to the picnic tables, which you can see on the video, but not so much if it was just a picture. B19, you can see it goes downhill as well. Here's an example of the vault toilets that you will find throughout the campground. They're very spacious on the inside, as the sign indicates. However, if you are in a wheelchair, you will find it difficult to jump up the 2-inch concrete pad It would be nice if they would provide accessible access to the accessible bathrooms behind the door. Site B22 is a big flat site that we really liked. Site B24 is a little bit on the small side. B25 was one of our favorite sites as well. B27 is a nice pull-through and flat campsite. It was one of our favorites, and it has a bonus of having electricity, as you can see. B30 was probably one of the best campsites in the whole campground, as you could park 4 cars and 2 RVs out in front of it there and still have a nice flat area for everything else. And you get the bonus of electricity. Heading into the sea loop, you will notice a considerable difference in the size of campsites. Over here, the driveways are a little shorter and the campsite areas are a little bit smaller. C6 is a good example. A very small pull-through area and picnic tables with everything real close together and not much of a clearing for larger tents. C7 was probably the worst site in the campground. It was so small you could barely pull a car in there. Site C11 was flat and had a nice size camp area. Site C12 was a pull-through with a very long driveway and you can back in quite a ways. It's hard to see, but the campsite backs up right against the mountain cliffs. But it also makes it nice and secluded and nestled right in the middle of the sea loop. Heading into the D loop, D3 was flat and plenty of room to park, but just a medium-sized camping area. D5 is just a medium-sized campsite. D7 was our campsite. It worked out good for me in my wheelchair as it was pretty level. They put a lot of gravel around the picnic table, which made it hard for me to maneuver around it, but for anybody else, it's not a big deal. D12 has a long, narrow driveway, but there is a nice campsite in the back. D17 is the last one that we could see, and it was not a huge driveway, but the campsite went way back there. Well, that concludes our tour. I apologize for not getting more of the sites, but some of the campsites are full of RVs and stacked up with vehicles, and you really just can't see anything, so I don't video those. Be sure to check out the campground worksheet like I mentioned before, and book your site. And if you have enjoyed the information I presented, then please hit like and subscribe to my channel, as I have many more campgrounds coming and you will be notified when they come out. Until next time, my friends, happy trails and so long.